money line. Money line is a vertical line. It's in red. It starts at the end of the headline and it goes up to the Mercury finger. Explanations in red between the Mercury and the Sun finger. 2 lines, that's 2 incomes in your 20s and half of your 30s. That section between the head and the heart line, that's 20, 30, and half of 40. Then it crosses over the heart line and it's the rest of 40 and then 50, 60, 70. So 2 lines, 2 incomes in your 20s and half of your 30s. Then 1 line in the second half of your 30s. And then 2 lines. Oh, and then just 1 line in your second half of your 30s. I think I said that, didn't I? And then 2 lines in your 40s. That's where it crosses over that heart line. And then 4 lines in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. Oh, maybe you're going to write or something. Too, if you're a musician, you might be writing some music or something. With your writer's fingers. I'll tell you, I don't very often see writer's fingers. Usually that little finger's quite short. So when I see a writer's finger, that's a rare finger. It's not very often that little finger's quite long. Okay, upper left-hand corner of your chart, achievement lines. These are lines that come off the top of that lifeline, and they will either point to the Jupiter finger or they'll go straight up. If they're really good, they're long, or they're kind of thick, or they've got a lot of color to them. So I've circled the extra good ones, or the good ones. Starting in between the thumb and the Jupiter finger, that line, every 1/8 of an inch on that line is about a year. Every 1/2 an inch is about 7 years. And that starts in between the thumb and the Jupiter finger at age 10. So, upper left-hand corner of your chart, achievement lines. At age 14, 17, circled at 20, an extra good one. 21, 22, 24, 25. Double circle at 27, extra good one. At 27, 29. Oh, your 20s were good to you. Your 29, yeah, your 20s were good to you. 30, 34, 35, 37, 38. Oh, so are your 30s. 43, 48, 51, 53, 55, 57, 59, circled at 61, circled at 64, 65, double circled at 68, and 70. And then that lifeline has gone as far around the back of the thumb, I can't read anymore. Okay, your heart line starts in between your Jupiter and your Saturn finger, comes down, and it should make a nice curve in there and then go off to the flirt lines. Yours is a little bit straight. You're kind of tough emotionally. That means you got hurt a little bit, physically hurt. It could mean that you've been emotionally hurt. You didn't say anything about your childhood or anything. You don't want to see any of those little islands in any of your lines. It's a break in the energy of the line. Little ovals or little triangle-y looking things or little circles. They break the energy of that line. So your heart line looks good. Good heart health. It's got a couple little lines off of it, but other than that, it's good. Now that section between the heart line and the head line, if you got X's in that section, that means you're a little bit psychic. You got 4 good X's in there. That's your psychic ability. Didn't you? Oh yeah, you said you were very psychic. Yeah, I believe it. That's where your psychic stuff shows. That 6th sense should be a nice little fat pad right below that Jupiter finger. Because you're a little dehydrated, it's a little bit sunken in. You should have a nice little fat pad that comes to a kind of a slight point up there. I can see that the skin is in there, but it's dehydrated. So it's fairly good. That's your intuition, your 6th sense. Here's how that works. If you've got a problem you got to solve, clear your mind completely. Let it go blank for about 30 minutes. And then when you come back to solve the problem. You'll probably have it already solved because your intuition or your sixth sense is kicked in, and it helps you solve the problem. So listen to the little promptings inside your head. Okay, your marriages and your relationships. Underneath that Mercury finger, see where the flirt lines are, the end of the heart line? You'll have little tassels in there. Oh, yours are very good. They're not so much flirt lines. It means you interact well with people. And then in between the flirt lines and the ring around the Mercury finger, that section is going to tell you about your marriages, relationships, children. The marriage and relationships are lines that go horizontal across that area, and then the children lines are vertical, coming down from the ring around the Mercury finger. And I count 3 children lines in there. They're not very long lines. See the little notation off to the side with the little green asterisk? Now, starting at the flirt lines, you measure that section in there by thirds. So going up towards the Mercury finger, that first third is about age 20, 30. The next third is 40, 50. And the last third is 60, 70, 80. So I see one relationship line starting down by the flirt lines. That's probably in your 20s. It's fairly early. And then I just see one marriage line is all. You didn't tell me if you were married or if you were just in a relationship. One marriage line, very good marriage line. Nice color, it's dark. And it's long, 30, 40 years long. Excellent. It's got a little tiny bitty fork in it. Sometimes that means that you have to work in different areas, maybe different states or different locations, that you're gone away from each other, but it doesn't mean a break in the relationship. Where it says palm shapes. This is probably your most important talent. And you've got shapes that are square or rectangular or round or long. You've got a kind of a combination of an athletic and artistic hand. Kind of squarish at the top and kind of round at the bottom. That is a musician's hand. You've got a really good musician's hand. And then look in the upper right-hand corner of your chart. The types of fingertips. This is your personality. And you've got 2 spatulate fingers, intense, dramatic, energetic, adventuresome, actor, actresses, hands. And then you've got 3 rounded fingertips. Intuitive, quick, very compassionate. I see those in people in the health field, like the doctors and the nurses, the social workers. Okay, your fate line. Look down in the lower right-hand corner of the chart. The fate line is your career and your lifestyle. I can't tell which, but whenever there's a break in that line, it's the line that starts at the base of your palm, goes up to the Saturn finger only. If it goes anywhere else, it's not the fate line. Anytime that line breaks and moves over, it's a change in either the career or the lifestyle. I can't tell which, or both usually. Sometimes you'll just get a little fork off that line. That's just a minor change. Now there's 2 starts to that line. It goes right down the middle of your hand. That means you're a very private person. And you have to have a lot of private space, but if it starts kind of to the outside of your palm, you're very sociable, like to have your friends and family around you. Yours is sociable. Lower right-hand corner, here's the changes. A little break there at 23, age 23. And 27, you got a little bit of a fork off there. A little break at 30, 32, 34. And then when you hit that headline, that's age 40. When you hit the heart line, that's age 50. When you hit that ring around the Saturn finger, the line there, that's age 80. So they're at the headline at age 40, 40 to 52. 2 lines, that means 2 jobs. 2 parallel lines in there. That could be a job in a family or a job and a hobby. It can be 2 income-producing jobs. Then at 53 to 60, 2 different lines. And then the line forks. And one line goes to the left of the Saturn finger, When that goes to the left, that Saturn finger, it means your spine's jammed, but we already knew that. And the other one goes straight up into the finger to age 92. That fate line is going to tell you how long you're going to live, not the lifeline. Lifeline is just your lungs and breathing. So you must be in fairly good health, besides just having a little bit of a jam up there in the neck area. This is your guardian angels and your angel visits. I don't even know why they show in your hand. None of my books tell me anything. But your guardian angels, who your guardian angels are, will show in that left hand, and a visit from a guardian angel will show in your right hand. They're lines that come from the bottom of the lifeline. They come up and they touch on the lifeline. At the age you were, this is your guardian angels, at the age you were when somebody that you bonded to, a loved one, has died, like your grandparents, your parents, your siblings, your aunties, uncles, cousins, old boyfriends, old girlfriends. Now remember, this is the age you were when they passed away, when they died, and then they become a guardian angel to you. So sometimes you have to do a little math with this. This is in your left hand only. This is who your guardian angels are. Someone who died when you were 11, and you were 15, and you were 21. Then in your right hand only, if you've ever had a visit from a guardian angel, it's going to show with a line that comes up, touches at the bottom of that line. You can have, if you've been really sick, or if you've had an operation, or you've had an accident, or if you've had someone that has died, a loved one die, very often their spirits, when they leave their body, will go around and check on their loved ones before they go off into the light. So sometimes you'll have one that shows at the same time that when you had someone die that's become a guardian angel to you. I don't think you had any of those. So your little divine intervention, little visits from guardian angels, show on the line in the right hand only at age 18, 20, 22, 24, and 28. That might be sometime when you maybe jammed that neck a little bit. You've done something to jam that neck, fallen off and hit the top part of your spine, or had an accident, or whiplashes will do it. Like I say, football, basketball, any of those contact sports could do it. Alright, we're down to the head line, head and spine line. I better tell you, I'm not just a palm reader, and I'm not even psychic hardly. But I have a master's degree in health education, and I was finishing up my master's degree when I was in my 40s. I'm an old school teacher, and I was finishing my master's degree in health ed, and I read this book by, I started reading these palmistry books, and I got hold of this old book. It's out of print, by a Dr. Eugene Scheiman, medical doctor, and he told how you could see the spine in the hands. Well, the spine runs your whole body, and I started to try that out while I was doing readings, and my gosh, it was all true. And even some of the people have taken their charts over to the x-rays, to their doctors, and it all lines up with the x-rays, the markings in the hands. So when you see the little islands there in the hands, that means that spine's out of place. Find your chart that says understanding your cervical spine. Wait a minute, let me see if that's what it says. Understanding your cervical spine. Look down at the bottom of that. There's a picture of a vertebrae down at the bottom of the page, and off of each one of those vertebrae in your spine, a nerve comes off the spinal cord, and it goes to different areas of the body. The head, the nose, the throat, the heart, the lungs, the stomach. And then they all end up in your hands and your feet. Oh, the ones at the top end in the roof of your mouth. So find your chart, and you've got a little problem up there in the where your nerves end in the roof of your mouth. Find your chart that says, just a minute, I gotta look at it. Chart of effects of spinal misalignments. I steal these pages out of the medical books. See the picture of the spine along there with all your little vertebrae stacked up on it. And those top two vertebrae, the atlas and the axis, set up underneath the skull. That's what holds your head on the spine. And then the next column is the name of the vertebrae: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and your tailbone. The next column is, just a second, gotta get my page turned over. The areas that those nerves go to when they exit that vertebrae. And then the next column is the effects that you get if that vertebrae is turned out of place. And of course, if that vertebrae turns out of place, it sits on a nerve, and it sends a little nerve signal. It goes bzz, 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 and it goes out, intermeshes with the muscle in your body, and it sends a little pain signal out that muscle. The muscle gets a muscle spasm in it. Then it holds that darn vertebrae out of place. And you have to go probably have a chiropractor work on it to straighten up that spine. And you're really bad right there. See where I've made the red circles? That's where you're out of place. Under that Jupiter finger, that is your cervical vertebrae, 1 through 7. Underneath the Saturn finger is your thoracic vertebrae, 1 through 12. Under the Sun finger is your lumbar, that's your lower back, 1 through, 5, I think. 1 through 5. And underneath that Mercury finger is your tailbone, your sacrum and your coccyx. So see underneath that Jupiter finger, I've marked that little place there in your neck. Oh, you're out a little bit too in your thoracic area. You're out from the very top of that vertebrae down through about thoracic, about 4th thoracic. Oh, I'm going to have to fix that. I haven't got that over far enough. So, you're out. I think that whole cervical area is out of place. You've got what they call the interneck. That's when you lean over those darn computers so long, it kind of moves those vertebrae out of place a little bit right at the base of your neck. And I'll tell you in just a second a little therapy you can do to pop that back in place. And you're out a little bit there in the top Saturn area, about 1 through, what did I say, 5? About 4. That's where your heart and lungs and gallbladder are. When you're out the top part of that spine, it usually throws you out the opposite way in your lower spine to compensate. So then you're out in that lumbar area, right down there at about 2 lumbar to 4 lumbar. Right where your sex organs, your uterus, your bladder are. Your knees. And then look underneath there where, well, see, your headline goes over, but it dips down on the end, and that makes a little depression line. So if you'll run your finger over that first one that's out of place, that'll cause some depression, because that interrupts the blood flow up into your head. The blood flow that carries the oxygen and the blood up into the skull. And then you're out in that 6th cervical. See where on the effects it says depression also. And that's what's making that darn depression line. That headline should go right straight across your palm. That tells you how smart you are by how straight across your palm it goes. You're very intelligent. but you're getting that depression line that drips down there. And when you get that spine straightened up, that depression line will go away. And it'll just leave that headline going right straight across your hand, your palm. So see where it says depression line? Right underneath that, it has a line that starts at the fate line. It goes vertical. It's called the health line. That's your internal organs. And you're getting a little bit of stress on those. You want to see one clean line going up there right where the money line starts. And you got 2 or 3 lines or they're broken, one or the other. I think you had a couple lines and one that was kind of out of place and kind of broken. So you got some stress in those internal organs. Usually those internal organs are the organs in the lower part of your body, your colon, your spleen, your liver. So you got some stress on that line. And then on that headline, out at the top and out at the bottom, like I say, you got the interneck. That's from leaning over that darn computer all the time. I used to read in the 1990s, 95, 96, 97, and I didn't see the necks out of place. But boy, since the advent of the computers, almost everybody around the whole world, and I get hands from all over the world, are out of place right there at the base of the neck. Even if you've got a perfect spine, you'll generally have a little spot that's out right there at the base of the neck. Because you lean over those computers you lean over for more than a couple hours, and it stresses those vertebrae out of place. Here's a little therapy you can do to pop that in. I show the people that work in the offices this. Sit up straight in a chair or stand up. Put your arms right straight out in front of you. Lock your fingers together. Now turn your palms over backwards and raise your arms above your head. That means your elbows are straight and your palms are facing the ceiling. Now push your arms back, 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 and you'll hear that go pop, 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 pop. That's popping those vertebrae back in place. You might have to do that a couple of times if it's really tight. And you got one spot that looks like it's kind of bad. And get that popped in place. My office workers, a lot of them do it like at lunchtime, and then they do it after they get off work. And they tell me that their spines sure feel a lot better when they do that little therapy to pop that neck back in place. Now, you might have to go see a chiropractor to get that straightened up at the top and also at the bottom, especially that in that lower spine there. And then keep that straight. We were doing a fundraiser one time for our high school, and so I'd set my little table up in the gym, and I had a bunch of gals come in the gym. 2 of them come over to my table and had their hands read. Well, they had absolutely perfect spines. I could not believe it. And I looked up at them with a confused look, and they motioned their girlfriends to come over. There were 7 of them all together. And I did all 7 of their hands. Every single one of those gals had perfect spines. All 7 on. I looked up and I said, are you girls trying to trick me or something? And they were laughing and giggling, and they thought it was a big joke. And the one little gal finally walked over and she says, I better tell you, Kat, she says, we're the walking club. We walk 7 miles every day. And she says, we don't just walk slow. She says, we walk at a good fast clip. And she says, and that's why our spines are in such good shape. Well, that makes sense because those 2 big old leg muscles are hooked to the 2 back muscles that go right alongside the spine. And when you walk, especially at a good fast pace, they go up and down, up and down, up and down, and it strengthens those 2 back muscles and that hold the spine in place. So walking is probably especially the good fast pace, is probably one of the very best things you can do for your spine. I'll tell you what you don't want to do. You don't want to ride horses. You know that spine can get hurt easily from accidents, car wrecks, bike wrecks, gymnastics, contact sports. That's what a lot of you guys have problems with. You didn't say if you're raised in the United States or not. And football is one of the worst things. But basketball is kind of bad too. Did I say gymnastics? Jumping on trampolines, that's really hard on your spine. Riding horses, I had a bunch of little gals. Let's see, where are you from? You'd know what a rodeo is, wouldn't you? Providence, Rhode Island. Oh, I don't know, maybe you don't. We live in the West, we live in Idaho. And so we have a lot of rodeos of the cowboys and the cowgirls. Well, they always pick a queen and two princesses out of the cowgirls. The gals that ride their horses do little tricks on them. And so I set my table up outside the rodeo, and the queen and her two princesses came over. They're only about 19, 20 years old. And I read their hands, and oh my gosh, their little spines were just jammed. All three of them, but the little queenie, her spine was just jammed terrible. And I said, "Doesn't your back hurt?" She says, "Oh, you can't even believe how bad my back hurts." She says, "We bounce up and down on these saddles all day long." And she says, "We got to go out there in that arena and ride around the arena at halftime of the rodeo and wave and smile." She says, "All the time I'm waving and smiling," she says, "I got big old tears just rolling down my cheeks. My back hurts so bad." So I told her she's going to have to do what the cowboys do. They've got a chiropractor on the side that straightens her back out, or a physical therapist. A chiropractor is better, but a physical therapist isn't allowed to adjust like a chiropractor is. And once you get that adjusted back in place, then keep that spine in alignment, like I say, with walking or doing yoga or something like that. And those lines will all erase in your hands. You're getting some extra stress lines in your hands too. You shouldn't, at age 29, you shouldn't have that many lines in your hands. And that might be what that extra line is up above that heart line. You're getting some stress up in that neck area that's so bad. That depression line will drop off and you'll have a straight line on your headline. And that health line will clean right up for the hands to kind of change.